Welcome to Veil of Shadows, Book 1, The Amulet of Shadows, by Marie Mayer. Chapter 12, The Pull Inward. The burial rise did not recover by morning. The grass within the broken circle remained pale, as though the earth there had been held too tightly and not yet forgiven it. The crown shape was blurred but visible, an afterimage pressed into soil. Elara stood at its edge at first light, the air thin and quiet around her. The amulet rested cool for the first time since the previous day. Not inactive, watchful. She closed her eyes and reached carefully downward. The node remained unstable, fractured but not dissolved. And beneath it, deeper than the shallow soil and shallow graves, she felt the lattice shifting again, not aggressively, repositioning. The crown network was not reacting with emotion. It was recalculating. Elara. Rhys approached from behind, boots soft against the rise. He carried a small satchel over one shoulder, wards and chalk visible at its mouth. "You shouldn't be alone when it's this close to alignment," he said quietly. "I'm not alone," she replied without turning. The amulet warmed faintly at that. He stepped beside her and looked down at the faint circle. "It almost held," he murmured. "Yes." She swallowed. "And when it almost held, it didn't just pull from the grove." Rhys's brow furrowed. "It pulled from you." She did not deny it. The crown had shifted its focus last night, not to the land, to her, as if it had finally understood that the fracture point was embodied, that the counterweight was not abstract. It had reached inward, testing whether she might prefer gathering to dispersing. The memory unsettled her more than the alignment itself. Rhys studied her face. "You felt it, didn't you?" he asked quietly. "Yes." "What did it want?" She took a slow breath. "It didn't want anything," she said. "It expected." His jaw tightened slightly. "To be completed." She nodded once. The morning light strengthened over the rise, revealing the small details of moss and stone, and carved names worn nearly smooth. The land here had been held for generations, not ruled, held. And yet the crown's logic had felt reasonable. That was what frightened her most. It had not felt monstrous. It had felt structured, efficient, certain. She turned away from the burial rise and began walking down toward the path that led west. Rhys matched her stride. "Where are we going?" he asked. "Toward the ridge." "The deeper fragment?" "Yes." If the lattice was compensating, she needed to understand where its strongest seam lay. The hills beyond the burial rise were older than the grove. Stone pushing up through thin soil, roots clinging like patient hands. Few villagers came this far, unless gathering rare herbs or checking old boundary markers. The path narrowed quickly. The amulet warmed as they climbed. Not alarm. Recognition. Elara slowed as the trees thinned and stone became more prominent. There. She felt it clearly now. Not a forming node. Not a shallow attempt, a depth. Beneath the ridge, she stopped at the base of a low outcropping where the stone had split naturally centuries ago, forming a narrow cleft descending into shadow. The air here was different, heavier, older. "This is it," she said quietly. Rhys scanned the ridge. "There's no mark." "No." She stepped closer to the cleft. The inward pull here was subtle but constant, not surging like a node, but present like a memory that never faded. She placed her palm against the stone. The amulet flared hot immediately. Her breath hitched. This was not a newly planted anchor. This was a fragment of the original ring. Older, embedded, dormant, but intact. It had not needed to be carved again. It had simply needed to be remembered. Elara closed her eyes. The lattice beneath the earth aligned faintly with this point. When the burial node nearly completed, this fragment had responded, not to strengthen it fully, but to support, to test. The crown did not require every node to be new. It required enough old seams to reconnect. Her heart pounded. "It's been here the whole time," she whispered. Reese stepped closer. "You can't disrupt this like the others." No. This was not shallow soil she could loosen. This was bedrock. The fracture point here had not been destroyed when the ring was formed. It had been suppressed. The amulet burned more intensely. The inward pull deepened, and then it shifted, directly toward her, not from the soil, from the fragment itself. A narrow, precise thread of tension moved up through the stone and into her awareness. The crown was no longer testing nodes randomly. It was testing her alignment. She felt it then in terrifying clarity. If she stepped forward, if she let her shadow extend fully into the cleft, the lattice would accept her as center. The fragment beneath the ridge would align willingly. The burial rise node would stabilize. The river and grove would follow. Not violently, seamlessly. The land would stop resisting. It would gather toward her. She would not have to fight dispersion ever again. Everything would cohere. The temptation was not emotional. It was structural. Her breathing grew shallow. The amulet seared against her skin. "Elara." Reese's voice was sharp now. She had stepped forward without realizing it. Her shadow stretched unnaturally toward the cleft, elongated by no light. It reached for the stone. The inward pull intensified instantly, welcoming. The fracture point recognized its counterpart. The lattice stirred across distance. She felt the burial rise node tremble in response. The river seam shift faintly. All waiting. One step. She saw it then, not as power, but as inevitability. The crown did not rage. It completed. Her mother had hidden the amulet because she knew this fragment existed. She had not destroyed it. She had chosen to fracture it. Balance required refusal. Elara dragged her awareness back from the cleft. Her shadow recoiled. The inward thread snapped sharply. The amulet flared outward in response, heat spreading like a shield rather than a spear. The fragment beneath the ridge did not shatter. It did not retreat. It steadied, dormant once more. But now it knew. She staggered back a step, breath ragged. Reese caught her arm. "It tried to take you," he said quietly. "No," she whispered. "It offered." He held her gaze. "That's worse." She swallowed. Yes, it had not coerced. It had presented coherence. And coherence was seductive. The amulet cooled slowly. Her pulse began to settle. The lattice beneath the earth quieted again. Not asleep. Waiting. She looked at the cleft in the stone. The fragment remained embedded beyond reach, older than any living memory. She could not destroy it, not without force that would destabilize the entire ridge. The ring had never destroyed the throne. It had fractured it across distance. That fracture required tending. Neglect had allowed the lattice to stir again. Elara drew a slow, steady breath. "It knows I won't gather," she said softly. Reese nodded once. "Then it will try another way." Yes. The crown network would not push where resistance was strongest. It would seek weakness, a node beyond her immediate reach, a place where balance was harder to hold. She turned away from the ridge slowly. The hills stretched westward in quiet patience. The fragment beneath the stone did not pulse. But she could feel its awareness now, faint and structural. It had tested her, and it had learned something vital. She would not take the throne, which meant it would need to complete itself without her. But the lattice was no longer experimenting blindly. It was adapting to her refusal. Thank you for listening. The story continues in the next chapter,